What's up, guys? Today I've got a Mercedes box from Lithuania. I've actually been waiting for this for a while now. Should be pretty cool. Let's see what's inside. And here we go. It is the AMG steering wheel trim that you can actually find on the early CLA 45s and SL63s, the R231 generation, and put on my C63. And unfortunately, it's never came on my car standard, but I've always really liked it. My car currently has a little plastic airbag badge down here, which doesn't look that great, so this would be a pretty big improvement. Honestly, pretty small detail, but glad to have it. So from the looks of it, looks like we'll have to do 4, I'm guessing torx screws of some sort to get the actual trim off, and then 2 on each side for the button panels. But should be pretty straightforward. We're gonna go down and do that now on my car. All right, here we are at the car. Got to pop the trunk and disconnect the battery. So for the W204, I believe most cars have the battery in the front. However, for the C63s, the battery's in the rear. So we got to take off the trunk lining over here and just pop open the spare tire compartment, and there's the battery right there. I'm going to get out my sockets and disconnect the negative terminal. But first, let's just make sure the car is fully unlocked and let us open the front door. Just want to mention before continuing, when you disconnect the negative terminal of the battery, do not close the trunk, as I don't think the trunk will open unless you somehow jumpstart the car and electronically open it again. So disconnect it, but don't close the trunk, just leave it open. Alright, so just make sure that negative terminal is completely out of the way, and they will not be touching that terminal of the battery at all. We're doing this because we're disconnecting the airbag, which, as you may know, is pretty explosive, so we do not want that to be charged when we're removing it. There we have a battery disconnected. Make sure the terminal is well out of the way. It will not make contact with the battery whatsoever. We are doing this because we're going to be removing the airbag from the steering wheel. A little bit annoying, but nothing we can't handle. But as the airbag is pretty, fragile, we don't want to damage it in any way, so for sure disconnect that battery. Now, to remove the airbag, we had to get a small kind of screwdriver, flathead probably, and stick it into these 2 little ports on the side of the steering wheel. You can see a little dimple right there. There's one on each side. Your car may not even show this, but if your front airbag has been changed or replaced at some point in time, it'll be pretty evident right there, which I think mine was from the recall from Takata, so that's the only reason why it's kind of visible there. But you'll be basically pressing the screwdriver on each side, and the airbag's just going to pop out. Should be 2 wires attaching it. Just disconnect those, and we can put it to the side. But yeah, pretty straightforward, but I'll show you real quick. Alright, so after getting one side kind of wiggled in there with the screwdriver, it popped out like so. Do the same thing on this side now, and we should be able to pull it out straight out. So unfortunately, it took a lot more effort than it should have. I believe when it was reinstalled with the new airbag, they kind of bent the springs how it was in there, so it wasn't very easy to disconnect. So there's kind of a little hole in the side of my steering wheel now, but hopefully I can pull out some of that material and make it seem flush again. But not a huge deal. It just kind of is what it is. You don't really see that part of the car anyways. But now it is. I'm able to pull this entire unit out. There is just that yellow connector right there, which we are going to disconnect with 2 pins right there, as you can see. So once I disconnect those pins, we can put the airbag to the side and start removing the trim. Alright, for some reason the connector was pretty dumb to remove. It's funny, I've done this now on both my C63 and my BMW, and the BMW is just so much more straightforward to take apart. This car is probably better built, but I mean, it's just not DIY friendly whatsoever. Just taking that connector out, you got to pinch both connectors, which are kind of in an awkward spacing. The airbag's right here, and to remove it, you don't want to drop the airbag, obviously, but there's really no other way of doing it. So I kind of had to let it fall into my leg. So just be aware of that when you guys are doing this. But now you may be just switching it out for another trim that's the same as what you already have, because yours may be damaged or something like that. But I'm actually changing it altogether to the AMG one. But it shouldn't make a difference in this process at all. But yeah, it is pretty annoying, just FYI, but we're going to keep moving forward. So, the next step, we have to remove a few sets of torx screws. I believe there are T20s, one up here, one up there, and also there are 2 behind. I'm not sure if I can get a good kind of visual of those, but, alright, let's see, yeah, right there and right there, at the bottom of the spoke of the steering wheel. Alright, so once you get all 4 T20s out, the trim should be able to come off pretty gently. Just don't force it, kind of wiggle it off. Keep in mind these buttons are still here, you don't want to damage those. and they're still connected to the steering wheel itself. So there we go. And now we can remove the buttons with some extra T20s down there. It looks like there are, I want to say, two T20s on each control panel over there. We got one at the front and one at the back over there. Yeah, so there seems to be two T20s on each of these side panels, so just take those guys out and then we can put those in the new trim. But for now, that'll be it. To make things easier, if you'd like, you can also disconnect the buttons themselves over here. Just take the actual trim off of, take the buttons off the trim rather. It might make things a little bit easier, so I might do that. Quick correction, there are three T20s on each of the button panels. One at the bottom, kind of one toward the top, and then one at the very top on each side. Symmetrical design. So even after undoing the T20 screws on each panel, there's one little tab over here. You gotta lift the silver piece up to let the black tab from the control panel out of the actual trim itself, and then it can go ahead and be transferred to the new trim. But yeah, just make sure you don't forget that. You don't want to break any tabs, especially if you want to sell this piece if it's in good condition, which mine is, so I'm probably going to sell it. Yeah, this would also be a good time to work on and clean up your steering wheel, especially if you get Alcantara like me. This stuff gets really dirty over time, so be a great time to clean it for sure. Alrighty guys, as you can see, I got the new trim in place. It's a very, very small change, but I think that little AMG badge makes a world of a difference compared to that little kind of crummy black airbag badge. So I do much prefer this. I think it was well worth the money. Actually, no, maybe not well worth the money. It is quite expensive for just a little badge down there, especially because my trim wasn't really, it wasn't broken, it wasn't really damaged. It had some small scratches from use, but, it wasn't a huge deal. But it gave me something to do, which, I appreciate that right now. So although it's a small change, I think, all these small changes, for example, like this and the little aluminum lock pins I got over there, they kind of add up to a bigger difference in the end for overall quality, and I really do look at like that kind of small stuff. This car is mainly for OEM Plus. I'm not really doing anything crazy with this car. Eventually I like to do headers and stuff, but in terms of looks, I really like the way the 507 looks from the factory, and I don't want to change much of that. So, with that being said, we're going to put the airbag back in. Just make sure that plug for the yellow plug for the airbag is put in there firmly. And before we reconnect the battery, put your headlights all the way on. I do believe it's a very small chance that, very, very small chance, that if you reconnect your battery and turn the car on, all the power will go straight to the ECU and burn it up. But that's a very tiny chance of that happening. And if you put your headlights on, this basically applies to any car really. If you put your headlights all the way on, then there's pretty much no chance. So, because all the power will go to the headlights instead. So, just to be safe, do that for sure. Especially because you're reconnecting airbags and all that. If my steering looks a little weird right now, it's a little bit wet. I've been cleaning it off. It's pretty dirty. As you can see, Alcantara just gets messy over time, so kind of hard to tell. But yeah, also, for these two bottom screws, be very careful not to over-tighten them. I didn't even think I was. I thought I was just kind of getting it in place, and one of them, the hole for the screw on the actual new piece of trim just snapped right off very easily, which is very odd. It's a brand new piece. So I'm not sure why. If mine was just weak, but overall it makes no difference in the way the car feels. It doesn't seem like it's loose at all. After all, there are at least 3 screws holding it in pretty firmly. It's not going to go anywhere. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to put the airbag back in and then reconnect my battery, and I'll be back when that's all done. And there we have it, guys. All fully installed. The AMG badge down there looking good. All this works, no problems with the lights up. Horn already tested out. Don't want to test it again because it's kind of loud. But yeah, that's it for this video, and peace out.